In a quiet little town, surrounded by soft green hills and peaceful open fields, there lived a boy named Ethan. He was neither famous nor extraordinary in the eyes of others, just a simple boy with a gentle smile, a curious mind, and a heart that wished to do well. Every morning he walked to the local school with his bag swinging on his shoulder, listening to the birds that chirped happily on the electric wires and watching the clouds float lazily across the blue sky. For many people around him, he was just another student. But deep inside, he carried a burden that no one could see. Ethan struggled with studying. No matter how long he sat with his books, no matter how many times he tried to read the same paragraph, the words just wouldn't stay in his mind. They slipped away like sand flowing through fingers. When his classmates solved questions quickly, Ethan would stare at the board, confused. And when he couldn't answer simple questions, the other students laughed, not always out of cruelty, but the sound of their laughter still cut deep into his heart. Slowly, Ethan's confidence faded. Slowly, he began to believe that maybe he really wasn't good enough. One afternoon, long after the final school bell had rung and the corridor had emptied, Ethan remained seated at his desk, quietly gathering the courage to do something he had never done before, asking for help. At the far end of the room, Mr. Harris, the school's philosophy teacher, sat at his table. He was an older man with patient eyes, silver hair, and a voice that always felt calm, almost like a gentle breeze. Ethan walked toward him, holding the strap of his bag tightly, his steps slow and hesitant. "Sir, may I talk to you?" he asked in a trembling voice. Mr. Harris looked up, smiled warmly, and said, "Of course, Ethan. Sit down. What's on your mind?" Ethan sat, staring at his hands for a moment before speaking. "Sir, I'm really bad at studying. I try, but nothing stays in my head. I can't focus. Everyone in class is ahead of me, and I feel like I'm failing at everything. I don't know what to do anymore. Could you please give me some advice?" Instead of laughing or scolding him, Mr. Harris's smile grew even softer. "Ethan," he said kindly, "you are not alone. Many students feel the same way. But if you truly want to improve, you can, and I'll show you 5 simple lessons that can change the way you learn. Lessons that change the lives of many students before you." Ethan lifted his head slightly, a spark of hope appearing in his eyes. "Let's begin," Mr. Harris said, reaching for a clear glass bottle filled with muddy water. "Lesson 1. Calm your mind, Mr." Harris held the bottle up and asked, "What do you see?" "Muddy water, sir." Ethan replied, "Exactly. Now, watch what happens when we leave it untouched." They placed the bottle on the desk and waited. 15 minutes passed, then 20, and slowly, the dirt began to settle at the bottom, leaving the water clear. "What do you see now?" the teacher asked. "The water is clear." Ethan said softly, "That is your mind, Mr. Harris explained. "When your mind is full of stress, fear, and 1,000 thoughts, you cannot think clearly. But when you let it calm down, even for a few minutes, your mind becomes clear, and learning becomes easier." He leaned closer and added gently, "Before you begin studying, close your eyes for 5 minutes, breathe deeply, calm your mind, you will see the difference." Something inside Ethan shifted. For the first time, studying didn't feel impossible. Lesson 2. Focus on the present moment. Mr. Harris reached into his drawer and placed a small candle on the desk. He lit it slowly, the flame dancing gently. "Now look at the flame," he said, and tried to focus on nothing else. Ethan stared at the flame, but his mind wandered to his classmates, his failures, the exam results he feared. He shook his head, trying again. The flame flickered, glowing softly, pulling him back. After several attempts, his mind finally stilled. The room around him faded, the flame became his entire world. Mr. Harris smiled. "The past is gone," he said. "The future will come later. All we have is the present moment. When your mind drifts while studying, gently bring it back. Again and again. That is how you grow stronger." Ethan nodded. It made sense in a way he had never felt before. Lesson 3. Understand. Don't memorize. The teacher placed a sponge and a rock on the table, then poured water over both. The sponge soaked up the water easily, while the rock remained dry. Some students memorize lessons without understanding. They are like this rock. Nothing stays, Mr. Harris explained. But students who imagine, question, and connect ideas, they are like the sponge. Knowledge flows into them and stays with them. Ethan gently squeezed the sponge, watching the water drip out. From now on, Mr. Harris said, "Promise me you will try to understand, not just memorize." "I promise," Ethan whispered. Lesson 4. Break big tasks into small steps next. Mr. Harris brought out a thick wooden block. "Try breaking this," he said. Ethan pushed, pulled, twisted, nothing happened. Then the teacher cut the block into smaller pieces. "Now try." This time, Ethan broke them easily. "You see," Mr. Harris said, "a big topic can overwhelm you, but when you break it into small parts, you can handle them one by one. Study for short periods, take breaks, then return with a fresh mind." Ethan felt a smile forming. He finally understood why studying felt so difficult. He had been trying to swallow everything at once. Lesson 5. Practice regularly. Finally, Mr. Harris placed 2 small pots on the table. In both, he had planted seeds. But only one pot had a small green plant growing. "I watered this pot every day," he explained, "but the other one I left dry." He looked at Ethan with meaning. "Even 20 minutes a day will grow your knowledge, but if you study one day and skip 3, nothing will grow." Ethan nodded slowly. "Every day," he said, "I'll study every day." Mr. Harris smiled proudly. "That's all you need." For the first time in a long time, Ethan felt hope. He walked home that day with new energy, new purpose, and a new belief. Maybe, just maybe, he could change. Ethan walked home that day with a strange feeling inside him, a mix of hope, determination, and a quiet excitement he had never felt before. For the first time, he believed that maybe studying wasn't about being naturally smart. Maybe it was simply about learning how to learn. And with Mr. Harris's 5 lessons in his heart, he was ready to try. That evening, after dinner, Ethan sat at his small wooden desk by the window. The world outside was peaceful, the moon hung low. A soft breeze rustled through the trees, and distant crickets filled the night with their steady song. Ethan placed his schoolbooks on the table, took a deep breath, and remembered the first lesson. Star Lesson 1 in action. Calming the mind, he closed his eyes. At first, thoughts rushed in. "I hope I can do this. What if I still fail? What if people laugh at me again?" But he breathed slowly, in, out slowly. The noise inside him settled, just like the muddy water in the bottle. His heartbeat slowed, his shoulders relaxed, and when he opened his eyes, he felt clear. He smiled to himself. Mr. Harris was right. This really works. Star Lesson 2 in action. Focusing on the present, Ethan lit a small candle he borrowed from the kitchen. Placing it on the table, he stared at the flame. At first, the old chaos tried to come back, memories of students laughing at him, fears of failing exams. But each time his mind wandered, he gently brought it back. The warm glow of the flame steadied him. "This moment is mine," he thought. "Only this moment," and with that, he opened his book. Star Lesson 3 in action. Understanding deeply instead of memorizing blindly like he always had, Ethan tried something new. He asked questions. Why does this work? How does this happen? What example can I imagine for this? He drew small diagrams, created tiny stories in his head, and connected each chapter to something real in his life. The information began to stick, not because he forced it to, but because he understood it. He felt like that sponge from Mr. Harris's table, finally able to absorb knowledge. Star Lesson 4 in action. Small steps instead of studying a whole chapter at once. Ethan divided his work. 10 pages became 2. Big paragraphs became small goals. Every time he finished a tiny piece, he felt a little victory inside him. He took short breaks, walked around, drank water, and returned with a fresh mind. Slowly but surely, the subjects he once feared started feeling less frightening. Star Lesson 5 in action. Consistency days turned into weeks. Every day, no matter what, Ethan studied for a little while. Sometimes 20 minutes, sometimes an hour. Some days he felt tired, but he didn't skip. Some days he understood quickly. Other days he struggled, but he didn't give up. Like the plant that sprouted from the daily watered pot, Ethan's mind began to grow stronger, fresher, and more alive. The change begins slowly. Things started happening small at first, then bigger. He could sit longer. He could concentrate better. He could read without feeling lost. He began to understand things he once thought were impossible for him. In class, he no longer hid his notebook. He raised his hand, sometimes hesitant at first, then with growing confidence. One day, when the teacher asked a difficult question, Ethan answered it correctly. His classmates looked at him, surprised, a little confused, but impressed. He didn't feel like the laughingstock anymore. There was pride in his chest, a pride he had never known. His grades improve at the end of the term. When report cards were handed out, Ethan stared at his grades with disbelief. They weren't perfect, not yet, but they were better, much better. Subjects he once failed were now passing marks. Difficult topics were now understandable. His parents noticed the change. His teachers noticed the change. Even his classmates noticed, but most importantly, Ethan noticed it in himself. He was not the same boy anymore. 5 years later, time passed, as it always does. Ethan grew older. He finished school stronger, more confident, and full of purpose. He went on to college, choosing a field he loved. The lessons Mr. Harris taught him stayed with him, not just for studying, but for life. Whenever he felt overwhelmed, he calmed his mind. Whenever fear tried to distract him, he focused on the present moment. Whenever work felt too big, he broke it into small steps. Whenever challenges felt impossible, he reminded himself, understand, don't memorize. And more than anything, he practiced consistency. A little effort every day, a little progress every day, and that was enough. Ethan became a successful young man. Someone people admired. Someone people looked up to. Someone people came to for advice. And sometimes, late at night, he would think back to that quiet classroom, that warm smile of Mr. Harris, and the 5 simple lessons that had changed his life forever. A message for everyone just like Ethan. Anyone who struggles with studying, with confidence, with life, can grow. You do not need to be the smartest or the fastest. You only need to take one small step at a time. Calm your mind. Focus on the present. Try to understand. Break things into small pieces. Practice regularly. These small habits, repeated every day, become the seeds of great success. And one day, like Ethan, you will look back and realize your belief and your hard work were your greatest tools. If you believe this message should reach more people, like, share, subscribe, and help someone else begin their journey today.